صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد.
A second salawat for the sake of Fatima Zahra salamullahi ta'ala alayhi.
اللهم صل على محمد.
And the third salawat for the reappearance of Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan salawatullahi ta'ala alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Dear respected Sayyid, my dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. وعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم باستشهاد أبي الأحرار الإمام الحسين عليه السلام. What a calamitous occasion that happened, that shook the world. And inshallah, we have this intention in the next few nights, the 10 nights that we have with me and the other esteemed brothers, Brother Farhan and Brother Moeen, that we together we would explore the amazing personality of Imam Hussain alayhi salam through his virtues, so that through his beautiful virtues and characteristics, we fall in love with him based upon why he's so great, based upon these virtues and characteristics. And through those virtues and characteristics, we learn about how we can be the best human beings that we can be. Because sometimes, my dear friends, we get hung up on just describing the amazing personality, and we have a disconnect between the amazingness of the personality, which it is, and us following that role model, us implementing some of the teachings that these role models have given to us. And here I'm of course talking about Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. So we have a series of different lectures covering the various aspects of the virtues and characteristics of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. And today we're going to start talking about the nobility of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, his nobleness. When we say that Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam is a noble person, actually he is in the height and the peak of nobility. What does that entail when we say somebody is noble? A lot of times we think nobility, we think royalty, royal family, high class, right? Kings, queens, certain families. You think royalty, right? But the reality is nobility is not just a genetic thing that's inherited in terms of class and socioeconomic status over the years. Actually, at the essence of it are deep-rooted qualities, beautiful qualities that actually are inherent and accepted universally by human beings. Human beings accept certain qualities, and they consider that these qualities are considered under the category of nobility. So nobility is not just something that you say that I'm noble because I come from so-and-so family. My great-great ancestor is this, and therefore I'm a nobleman. I'm a noble person. No, true nobility, it entails a set of characteristics. What do these characteristics look like? It's basically a set of ethical virtues, a complete package of different things that basically, when you look at it, it's the height of a human being conduct and character. So it's not just belonging to some clan, to some socio-economic ladder. No, it entails an actual practice of certain characteristics, of certain virtues. So nobility, what does it entail? What does nobility hold? Nobility holds a lot of different things. It's an umbrella of a variety of virtues. Some of these virtues and characteristics me and my colleagues, my brothers, are going to go into in the next few nights. But on this first night, I'm going to talk about nobility in general. What does it entail? When you look and you see, nobility entails honor and dignity. Having honor and dignity. Honor and dignity has to do with a person being honest, being transparent in their dealings, so there's nothing from behind, having integrity, so ethical conduct of the utmost status. No matter what the circumstances are, they stick to their principles of integrity. It also includes a person being dignified, having respect for oneself and respect for others as well. So honor and dignity falls under nobility. What else falls under nobility? Compassion and empathy. A person who's noble, truly noble, has the ability to express compassion to others, has the ability to be empathetic and relate to others. So you'll find kindness under that. You'll find empathy, and you'll also find generosity, giving. So a person who's noble is a person who's by default generous. So you see how nobility is such a big umbrella. So when you say that this person is a nobleman, has nobility, that means this person has it all. This person is as close as you can get to a perfect human being. Actually, they are a perfect human being if they truly fulfill all of this. A noble person is a person of bravery and courageousness. So courage includes moral courage, so the ability to stand up for the truth despite the consequences. And it includes also physical bravery, a person who is brave physically in the heat of battle, in the heat of any type of conduct at the physical level, and also bravery in terms of resilience. They're able to withstand difficulties by standing erect and maintaining their position and not bowing. So that's courage right there. Courage and bravery, that's part of having a noble character. Would also be a character that is justice loving and justice seeking. So a person who pursues justice and pursues fairness. So treating people equally, right? Not discriminating. So a person of nobility would not discriminate. There's no nepotism for a person who's truly of noble character, a person who's righteous, a person who actually defends the people who are defenseless. So anybody who's vulnerable, a person who has the have-nots, you find that the truly noble person is a person who's going to step up and always protect those people. So that's a person of justice and equality. So that falls under nobility. Another thing is humility and modesty. A person who's truly noble or has nobility as their characteristic is a person who has humility. Not because I'm noble, I'm from the Sayyid family, I'm from this clan. I mean, all due respect for my esteemed Sayyid and the other Sayyids, but it's not just a tag. It's not just a label that you feign and you become arrogant and proud because of it. As a matter of fact, the person who's truly noble is a person who's humble and think all these characteristics. It's to Imam Hussain, that beautiful personality of Imam Hussain, and that's why we love him so much, and that's why what happened on the day of Ashura was so calamitous, because he included all these things that we're talking about that fall under nobility. So a person who has humility and modesty, maintaining that humble demeanor, even though they have such a high status in society. Remember, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, who was his mom? Who was his father? Who was his grandfather? Which clan did he come from? From the Bani Hashim. His grandfather is the Prophet. His father is Imam Ali, right? Amir al-Mu'mineen. He comes from a clan of amazing individuals through the Bani Hashim, through Ismail alayhi salam. So it's easy to fall into arrogance and kibr and showing off and separating from the people. But we find that Imam Hussain was far from that. So humility and modesty. Another thing, wisdom and prudence. That falls under a person who has noble characteristics. Wisdom and prudence. So the ability to judge things according to how they are and how they are supposed to be. Not being rash and not jumping into conclusion and taking quick action. A person who's razin, who's wise, who takes their time and exercises the knowledge in its true time and its true place. And last but not least, a person who has nobility is a person who respects and honors others. So just like they demand respect, but they have respect for everybody, even their adversary, even the person that's opposing them, they will still treat them with respect. with honor because they respect themselves and they honor themselves, so they treat others with respect and with honor. You will never find a person who's truly noble stoop down to the level of the other opposing person. So let's say they're in a debate, and the other person, the adversary in a debate or in a conflict, stoops down and starts to say bad words. You'll find a noble character, a noble person who's truly noble will not be brought down to that level. So my dear friends, now that we try to a little bit explain what nobility entails, and as you can see, it entails a variety of beautiful characteristics and beautiful virtues, which were all embodied in this amazing human being, Al-Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So in the next few minutes, I'll tell you a couple of narrations coming from the mouth, the holy mouth of Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam, on what nobility looks like. So what he said about nobility. In the beginning, I explained different things that I researched about what nobility entails. Let's see some things that he told us about. Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam says, true nobility is in being superior to those above us in generosity and in being more generous than those below us. So true nobility, he says, is a person being generous. He connects it to generosity. You can never find true nobility with a person who's a miser, person who does not give. But he says that a person who's truly noble is the highest in generosity, always in the highest state of giving. On another hadith of Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam, he says, and it's a very known hadith that we all should know as followers of Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam. He says, I am not rising as a rebel, as a revolt, or out of arrogance, out of kibr, or out of spreading corruption. So why are you rising, oh Imam Hussain? He says, I am rising to reform the ummah of my grandfather. Look at this noble stand. He's explaining to us that his movement is not a movement that's worldly in nature. It's not focused on something that's material, something that's contaminated. It has noble values, right? Ideal values, values of reforming humanity, reforming the ummah of his grandfather. So he's reminding people about the status of his grandfather, and look what the message of his grandfather, where is it going? It's got derailed. And so he's trying to revive the true teachings of his grandfather. Nobility, my dear friends, includes a person being kind, a person who forgives. And so Imam Al-Hussain says, the most merciful person is the one who forgives when he is able to take revenge. You see, a noble person, when he has the ability to take revenge, what does he do? What did the Prophet ﷺ do in the Fath Mecca, in the conquest of Mecca? He was able to take revenge from Hind. He was able to take revenge from Abu Sufyan and all these characters. And even Wahshi, the one who took the liver of Al-Hamza alayhi salam, right? But what did he do? Forgive. Go. I pardon you. Nobility, noble character. So the one who avenges and takes vicious revenge from his enemies is the one who does not have such characteristics. Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam says, and this is also something that should always ring in our ears, he says, death with dignity is better than life with humiliation. A noble person, a noble personality is a personality that does not want to die in subordination to anybody. It's a characteristic of nobility where the person is dignified. Dignity is very important for a person who has an overall noble character. They would never succumb to humiliation no matter what. Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam also in another hadith says, Wallahi, by God, I will, and he tells the people about the bay'ah to Yazid and the bay'ah to the tyrants. He says, I will never give you my hand like a man who's been humiliated. I will never do that. Nor will I flee like a slave. These are the characteristics of a noble person. Yes, my friends who are going to be talking about various characteristics, and me myself, you'll find that we're going to go into some of these virtues, and some of these hadiths or these stories will be repeated, because you'll find that nobility includes a lot of different moral characteristics, and Imam al-Hussein had it all. It's not that he was just generous, he was just courageous, he was just dignified, he was just chivalrous. He had the whole package. He was the most perfect human being of his time. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam says, a noble person does not extend his hand for that which he does not deserve. A person of nobility is not going to go in and cheat and go and take something that is not his. He's not a cheater. A noble person is not a cheater. And while we're saying this and we're discussing all these hadiths, we have to think about ourselves. Do we have noble characteristics? No, it's not just Imam Hussein and praising him and how amazing he is. Of course, we're here to mourn him and to praise him. But what are we going to take in our life? We want to have some nobility too, right, my dear friends, my dear brothers and sisters? We want to have some, maybe not all the characteristics. I mean, that would be the perfect situation. But if we can gather any of these beautiful characteristics that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam tells us about. And one of the famous hadiths of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, which shows his noble character, he says, humans are slaves of this world. Humans are slaves of this world. But is a noble person, truly noble person like Imam al-Hussein, a slave to this dunya? He says humans are slaves of this world, and as long as they live favorably and comfortably, they are loyal to religious principles. You find them coming to the ma'tam, you find them coming to the Jummah, to the majalis, as long as their 401k is secure, their car is good, their property, everything is good. But when things are tested, when times are tough, and Imam says, however, at times of hardship, the true followers are few. The true followers are few. So a person who has nobility is a person who is not a slave of this world. A person who's always a person of principle, a religious person in all situations, even when things are tough, even when things are taken from him. You find his true noble character. It's not just about being courageous, it's about having the complete package of all these virtues all the time, in all situations. Imam Hussein specifically says in another hadith, he says, the most noble person, listen to this, he says, is the one who does not consider himself equal to any material wealth. It's not a material person, a person who's truly noble. So if a person comes and shows off to you and tells you that, look, I'm from this clan and I come from, this dynasty in India from 200 years ago, and that's why you should intermarry with my family, or I should marry into your family. Tell them, show me the characteristics. Are you material? When you find that person is materialistic, their family is materialistic, that's not nobility. True nobility is actually embodying these virtues in practice, and not just something that you inherit through some lineage. Yes, Imam al-Hussein had the lineage. He had the genetics. You go right through, all the amazing great-grandfathers and great-grandfathers he had. But in words and in deeds, he practiced this. Because we're very short on time, I'll give you just 2 stories. I had a little bit more, but inshallah, the barakah will envelop the majlis. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. An example from Ashura. But remember, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, some people think that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, it was only the Karbala, what happened in Karbala, and everything we know is as if his whole life was just in Karbala. Imam al-Hussein, by the time it was Karbala, Ashura, he was 50-something years old. But what about his life before that? I mean, he exercised, he fulfilled, and he expressed, and he showed his character in so many different ways all these years. But of course, Karbala was the peak where his virtues, his beauty shined and enveloped the world of his time and enveloped the world to come until the day of judgment. So an example of Imam Hussein's nobility, look at this. Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. Al-Hurr was one of the commanders of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. He was tasked with taking an expeditionary force to go and follow Imam Hussein's army and Imam Hussein's caravan and basically arrest them. Prevent them from going further, prevent them from reaching Kufa. So those group of soldiers went under the commandership of Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. They tried to bully the troops of Imam Hussein and his caravan, push them around, allow them to get to where they are. But before they did that, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, his caravan reached a certain point which had a lot of water. So they reached a well, and so they filled up their water bottles and their water skins, and they were good to go on to the next step. When they went on to the next step, this is where they met the expeditionary force, the arresting force of Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, which was sent to capture Imam al-Hussein and to arrest him, prevent him from moving further. So they were trying to do that, okay? It wasn't working out, but Imam al-Hussein's camp could hear the soldiers of Al-Hurr crying out of thirst. Imagine the hot days in the desert, like these last few days, nothing compared to the desert of Saudi Arabia and Iraq, and where there's no, we don't have the water bottles here that we have from Costco right away there. I mean, you have to find wells, hundreds of kilometers to find a well, and you have to pack, and if you run out of water, you're in trouble. So they were dying out of thirst. What was the dignified position of Imam al-Hussein? Look at his nobility. When he heard their cries, he ordered his soldiers, his troops, the Bani Hashim, his children. He said, go give them. He said, go give them water. He quenched the thirst of every one of them. Imam al-Hussein, with his own hands. There's an account in the history books from one of the soldiers. He said that he saw Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam coming with that water skin that's filled with water. He fed it to me, to that person, and he fed it to my horse. They fed all their animals. And he said to the point that their water skins had a lot of water. Okay, Imam al-Hussein's, they were filled, those water bottles were filled with water, that they were coming out in force, and he was making sure that it comes out with such force that it doesn't spurt over the person. So to such an extent that army that was sent there to come and capture him and arrest him, he sent them water. What kind of characteristic is that? Where do you see that? You see what's happening in Gaza? For years and years, blockade. Don't let anything in by the Zionist forces. Now, because they're in a battle with them, nothing in. No food, no water. That's their characteristics versus the nobility of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And another story before we, inshallah, say the adhan for Salat al-Maghrib. Again, related to the story of Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. My dear brothers, we mentioned how nobility entails a lot of things, right? And one of the things is kindness and forgiveness. Kindness and forgiveness to your enemy, or the person who was your enemy. Look at Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And many of us know this story, but it's good to put it in the context, a context that we can relate to and actually practice it. That commander who tried to bully Imam Hussein and arrest him, we just learned that he fed them water when they were thirsty. Imagine the officer who's coming to capture you, you give him water, you give him food to eat. So on the day of Ashura, when Al-Hurr made that faithful decision, that correct decision to join the army of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and he ran to Imam al-Hussein asking for forgiveness and seeking for Imam al-Hussein to pardon him and accept him and forgive everything that he did before. What did Imam al-Hussein do? Without putting him down and putting him through a tough time, he welcomed him with wide arms. That's a noble character, my dear brothers and sisters. A person who doesn't hold grudges, who doesn't hold anything in, who doesn't just seek avenging for the sake of avenging. Is a person who pardons. Can we implement that in our life and actually have nobility in a little bit of nobility? Yes, people have us. Family members have hurt us. But why leave that grudge for 20 and 30 years against that brother, that cousin, that uncle? And then we come to the Aza of Imam Hussain and we do matam and we praise his noble characters and characteristics. But why can't we practice some of this noble characteristic? It's difficult. You think it was easy for Imam Hussain? To him to forgive al-Hur like that so easily? You think it was easy for Imam al-Hussein to give away water when water was, it's such a valuable commodity? He's giving it to his enemies when he knows what's going to happen. Imam Hussein knows that he's going to die thirsty, then his kids are going to die thirsty. He knows that, but he heard cries of another human being, and right away he was kind and he's generous. And Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam had so many other of these beautiful, noble characteristics. Inshallah, in the next 2 nights, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us life, we will try to explore these various aspects. If I have, may Allah decides to extend my life, inshallah, tomorrow I'll focus on generosity, just the generosity of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. We'll talk about some of his hadiths and how he practiced generosity in all its forms in his life. Not just during Karbala, but also in other aspects of his life. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive each and every of our sins. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our aza to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and to his great-grandchild, Imam al-Mahdi al-Muntadhar ajjalallahu ta'ala wa farajahu al-Sharif, because that's the most important thing, my dear friends, that Allah accepts. That Allah accepts what we do. Our coming here, our tears, our, the lectures, our